Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today it's time to check in again on the most expensive, most valuable, most sought after, phrase it how you will, special illustration rares from the Scarlet and Violet era. And a couple interesting little notes about this. No supporter cards. It is all Pokemon now. No supporter cards. Even got that close. Honestly, there's been some big ones that we've had in the past that have been pretty sought after on release and all of that. I&O from Paldea Evolve springs to mind that you will have seen on previous iterations of this list. As it stands at the moment, we are all Pokemon. There are also, somehow, no cards at all from Scarlet and Violet base. From Paldea Evolved, from Obsidian Flames, and from Paradox Rift. That is the first four main sets. Yes, some special sets have gone and snuck in here. But from the first four main sets here, there are no cards on this list. They don't make it. They're not in here. Is that a little bit weird? Potentially, yeah. Partly it's a recency bias thing. Newer sets tend to be a little bit overrepresented. And partly, there is an issue here of Pokemon just up their game. Year one of Scarlet and Violet is those four sets I just named. Year one has no representation, but when we got to year 2 and 3, well, really year 2, because we're only at the end of year 2. But when we got to year 2, that's when we started really kicking into gear. Although, again, some special sets have got some cards in here as well. So, starting off with fake number 10, we've got Iron Crown from Temporal Forces, which comes in at about $75. And I say fake number 10 because real number 10, we're going to get to in a second, is also $75. But I'm looking at TCG Player, I'm looking at eBay, I'm looking at a few different places, and I'm giving you a kind of nearest $5, a round-ish figure here. So, although I've got this at 75 and number 10 at 75, there is a little bit of a difference, and this generally trends a little lower than the other. But it's Iron Crown. It's one of the Paradox Pokemon, and remember Nagamiso did all of them in Temporal Forces, and it's the most playable of the three. It's got the ability Cobalt Command, which increases the damage done by future Pokemon on your side by 20. And sure, it's not great now, but it's been good in the past, and I think it will be good again in the future. In real number 10, we've got ourselves the Terapagos from Stellar Crown. The only card, incidentally, that makes the list from Stellar Crown. So despite being a newer set, only one that gets on here. And what we've got is, firstly, it's a playable card. People like Terapagos. Now, it's not really crushing the metagame like some people thought it would, but make no mistake, it's still a good card. It's still doing very well. It's just not doing quite as well as I think some people were expecting. Still a cool card. And then, it's Terapagos. It's the poster child of the DLC, which I do think is actually very important. And you add that all together, and you end up with, well, a pretty good, pretty playable, pretty impressive card at about $75. In at number 9 at $95, we've got the Hydreigon from Surging Sparks. And yes, you are going to notice that this list is very heavy on Surging Sparks. Surging Sparks is massively overrepresented on this list, and there are a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, it is a new set, new cards tend to be a little overrated, bit too expensive and all of that. But secondly, quite high up on this list, I think we can all assume, we are going to get the Pikachu, and the Pikachu is a pretty big deal. And that is basically dragging up the entirety of the rest of the set. The rest of the set is more expensive because people are buying it hoping to get the Pikachu, and that's a pretty big deal. Plus, the Hydreigon is quite playable, has phenomenal Akira Igawa artwork. It is one of my favourite cards on this list. In fact, of the cards on this list that I don't currently have, this might be the one that I most want to have. It is a great card, and I am an absolutely gigantic fan of it. Coming in at number 8, also at $95, but trending a little bit higher, we've got the Raging Bolt from Temporal Forces, the other card on this list that I look at and absolutely desperately want. Because, I mean, firstly, Raging Bolt, crazy playable card, just phenomenally playable card. It's part of one of the best decks in the format, but also it's got phenomenal T0 artwork. They did all of the Ancient Paradox Pokemon in the set, in the same way Nagamiso did the Future, but they just look better to me. And this is the best of the three, and you add it all together. This is a card that I don't currently have. It's probably not going down anytime soon. This is a card I probably need to just shut up and go and pick up. And I might do that, except for the shutting up because I'm in the middle of recording a video. In at number 7, we have a big jump up to $140 for the Charizard from Paldean Fates. And remember, this is just a reprint of the one from Obsidian Flames. They are both special illustration rares. They are both the same card mechanically, and they both have artwork by Akira Igawa. And yet the one from Obsidian Flames is about a third of the price of this and nowhere near the list. This is quite nicely on the list in at number 7. And it's got to be an artwork thing here. Maybe there is an element that Paldean Fates is harder to pull them. And remember, Obsidian Flames had very few secret rares because it was only based on one Japanese set. So that does make the pull rates higher, which makes the prices lower. But, as in the pull rates of each individual one. And there may be an element of that, but I think people just prefer the artwork. I don't have this card, but I do have a poster signed by the artist that I picked up at Worlds, and I think there's a chance that that's even better. Pretty sure it's rarer, at least. In at number 6, we've got the special illustration rare Milotic, coming in at about $150. And this is one that jumps out to me initially as a bit of an anomaly. I don't think this should be as high. And it's not because it's not a playable card, it's got an ability that protects it from Terra Pokemon. It's a very playable card. And it's not because it's not beautiful, obviously it's beautiful, and of course, let's face it, it makes a pair with the Feebas, and people love paired cards. Generally speaking, paired cards, the value of both gets pushed up. But essentially here we've got the fact that it's a paired card, the fact that it's Milotic, and the fact that it's Surging Sparks, and it's just pushing it higher than it generally should be. Like, you look at some of the cards it's above right now, and it just doesn't really make sense to me. This is one of my biggest candidates on this list for gonna take a sharp downturn. It just seems way too high. One that is probably not going to take a downturn anytime soon is the Charizard from Scarlet and Violet 151, coming in at about $200. Yeah, this is a pretty big card. Actually, I pulled this one recently from a mini tin of all places, tweeted out about it. I was delighted. And the thing is, this isn't the playable Charizard. The one from Obsidian Flames and Paldean Fates, that is the playable one. This one, partly it's 151 and that set is a monster of a set. Partly it's the artwork. And, you know, you do have the trio of cards here. I said paired cards tend to be pushed up. Well, here we've got a whole Evolution Line trio thing going on. But either way you slice it, this is a monster card coming in at about $200. And yeah, the top half of the list are all 200 or above. In year 1 of Scarlet and Violet, the year that does not represent on this list at all, the cards as a whole, all of them, even the biggest hits, got super cheap. As we're in year 2 now, did not happen. Yes, I know 151 is from year 1 of Scarlet and Violet, but come on, it's a special set, you know what I mean. Coming in at number 4, the Latias from Surging Sparks, coming in at about $250. Now, I am so glad I pulled this on the live stream I did for Pokemon breaking the Guinness World Records title there end of last week, or week before, because basically I want this card so badly, and I don't think I ever would have got it otherwise, because this is exploding as a card. It's a huge card. And the thing is, it is obscenely playable. It gives free retreat to all of your basic Pokemon. It's a stunningly playable card. It's a ridiculously playable card. And it makes a pair with a Latios. And it's by my favourite artist. And as I told you on the stream, this is a Pokemon that's very personal to me. And you add that all up, and it's just phenomenal. Really playable, phenomenal artwork. Latias is a popular legendary Pokemon. It makes a pair with Latios. This seems way too high, but when you bring in the surging sparks effect, that set as a whole has been boosted like I explained, this does actually kind of make sense. In at number 3, we've got the Mew from Paldean Fates at $300. And not to turn this into a got need video, but don't have this one. Might need to open some more Paldean Fates. This Mew is stunning. The first card by Uzcaman, who is, as I've explained, one of the best followers on Twitter. Love that dude. Love their artwork they put out. I thought this was a fan-made card when I first saw it. It's not. It's real. I love it. And yeah, it's a playable Mew. It's a really playable Mew. But when you get to this level of card, it's not really about playability. People love Mew. The artwork's amazing. And it's in Paldean Fates, and you might notice special sets, they do get a little bit of a bump. Maybe because we don't buy as many packs because of the way we have to buy them. In at number 2, we got the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. And I've told you this so many times on this channel. This card is weird. It should not be here. There is no way that this Greninja should be number 2 on this list. Now, it is number 2 on this list, but whereas all the other cards I can kind of explain it, this one, no. It's popular, not popular enough. It's playable, not playable enough. It's not good enough to be a $325 card number 2 on this list. It should not be higher than Mew and Latias and the Charizard from 151. No! But people wanted a hit. And essentially, in Twilight Masquerade, the community manufactured a hit. Enough people bought and sold this at a high enough price that it became the price. And I don't think it should be. But it doesn't really matter. That's where we are. And in at number 1, we got the Pikachu from Surging Sparks at $450-ish. This one is fluctuating quite a bit. It's hard to get a handle on it. It is coming down a bit, but not really enough, given that it's $450. This card is absurd. Crazy expensive card. And it's kind of playable, don't get me wrong, but that's no real bearing on this. It's Pikachu, who's a pretty big deal, and people love the artwork. And I do think, and this is more of just a personal prediction, but I think people are just after hits nowadays. We saw it with a Greninja in Twilight Masquerade. We see it with Pikachu here. I think there's a section of the community which are essentially overbuying the big cards at the moment to manufacture these hits, and it's working. But this went up fast, way faster than card like Moonbreon, for instance, back in Sword and Shield, way faster than any card we've seen pretty much ever. And there's just no real reason for that, unless it's just the community boosting it up nice and quickly, which is fine, that's what's happening, but I don't think this is as natural as it could be. I'm not saying people are doing it deliberately, I'm saying that people are so desperate for a hit here that people are overbuying and creating that hit. Either way, Pikachu seems like it's entrenched at number 1 for the long haul. The entire list is $75 and up. The top 5 is $200 and up, and the top 3 is $300 and up. We were not here a couple of months ago with values of the special illustration rare. Things are jumping up fast. But I've told you about all this now. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these cards you've pulled. Tell me which ones you've gotten hold of. Did you pick any up? Did you get a good deal? Did you jump on any of these when it was still vaguely cheap? Let me know in the comment section. Good us. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Star of Dav, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.